Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I have a couple announcements. One, the pancake breakfast for tomorrow morning has been canceled due to the unsettled forecast for tomorrow morning. We don't want our seniors out driving around in slick conditions. Are there any public comments from the board?
No.
I would just like to thank Dave McDonald for spearheading once again the volunteer effort to bring a little bling to the center of Lunenburg for the holidays. As always, the many volunteers lovingly placed garland and lights, hoping to delight all who pass. A special thanks to Mark Flagg for bringing in his big bucket truck to get all the high points taken care of. Thank you all. Damon was even there with this little girl. Yeah. Any public comments from the public?
Hi, Steve Weaver, 288 Holman Street. I want to commend the board for bringing forward your goal with the old primary school at town meeting. I think that there was a clear message to demolish and green space and a parking lot like Selectmen Jeffries and Adams stated at the last meeting. I want to address the adding of personnel that the town manager brought up at the last meeting. I think that Selectman Luck and the board chair were right in questioning each position. I think that we should be looking at ways to save money. Some positions added do not save money. Selectman Luck suggested last year to add an engineer, and that would save the town a lot of money. The IT person would be a good idea because we should be moving forward in that direction to modernize the town government and try to streamline the jobs performed. It was stated at the last meeting that this person would work for the town and school. Is that correct, Heather?
That hasn't been, it's at this point just a possibility.
But that's
It'd
what
have to be
you
a
said
discussion.
last meeting, that it would be, the person would be
I
working.
said the
for
current staff, we split between the town and school.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have not seen that in any of the town departments or the school sharing personnel or working together. Last year, when Selectman Luck and Adams asked if duties could be shared between departments or longer hours, it was stated that this could not be done. In successful companies, many people wear different hats and go help out where there is a need, even shifting departments or other plants. There are positions in town that are not filled, and those should be addressed or eliminated if there is not a need. It was stated last meeting that a recycling coordinator might be added along with a staff for roadside inspection. How big would this staff be? And as Mr. Rogers would ask, how much would it cost the town? I know it was stated there would be a grant for the coordinator, and there was a question about unemployment. If this person got laid off, if this person was a temp, you could still get the grant and would not have to pay unemployment. The company that buys our recyclables should have a stake in how it is done, and they should help out with the cost of getting it right. The nutritionist and the minutes clerk positions might be addressed by the IT person. There are programs and software that will do the minutes at meetings and help with nutrition. With Oracle programs, it might also streamline town positions. It has worked in a lot of companies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For our first appointment tonight, oh, did you want to have an announcement?
Yes, I do have, just an announcement about a correction in the ledger. So in the November 29th ledger regarding the property taxes, the article had a misstatement about new growth. The article reported that the revenue from new growth was $366,231, well above the projected $355,000. New growth was in fact less than the projected amount at the annual town meeting. The projected new growth at the annual town meeting was $375,000. The actual new growth was $366,231, which is $8,769 less than the projection. So I just wanted to note that correction. And I also, under just comments, I just want to commend the DPW for all the work that they did for keeping the roads clear in that long storm. I think they did a great job, and they also cleared out the gazebo area so the band, the tree lighting ceremony could go on with 2 feet of snow on the ground. So, thank you.
Thank you.
First appointment for the evening, 7 p.m., a bit late, meeting with MRPC Principal Planner Sherry Bean regarding walkability and parking study. We're sorry to keep you waiting so long.
If anyone wants to follow along, I do have some extra copies. I know that the board has them on their tablets, but I have
Yes.
two. Okay. All right. So I guess what Heather had invited me up tonight was to go over the walkability and parking study that we had done through our Unified Planning Work Program funding. I'm not sure, I wasn't expecting a full half hour, but well, it's kind of good that you're
now you
running late,
can.
so I can wrap it up a little quickly.
Line it for us.
So I'm guessing a quick overview on the study process, and then I'm hoping to get some comments or questions, anything that would be included in the report to finalize it. So to begin with, we had to identify the study areas, and when we went to, we had a little, I guess it would be like an inner city, any community group that consisted of Board of Selectmen, planning, DPW, police, schools, library, it was a senior center. So we had a lot of all the municipal departments represented. And then we just decided that because Lunenburg is a little bit unique, we have the Whalum area and the town center, we decided to do both study areas based on the points of interest that were in those areas. They were like really highly concentrated in both spots. So we had the 2 study areas. We called it, one was town center, the other one was Whalum. And then we had reached out to the public to do some walking audits, where we met, actually the first meeting was here in Town Hall back in July. So now I had to actually refresh my memory on this because it's been a while. So we had our first meeting in July, actually June. It was right around graduation. So we met here in June. It was very well attended. I have a great picture in the report that shows this room filled with people and dogs, and everyone was ready to go. It was perfect weather. We started walking. We did 2 separate groups, did 2 different routes. We walked around the schools, the town hall, the Ritter. Some of us went to the gazebo, some went all the way to the library, and we all took notes on a particular number of things, including sidewalks, roadways, crosswalks, trails, park and public gathering spots, shade trees and benches, parking, and then attractions. So those were the key things that we were looking for while we were walking. And we got some feedback from the public stating that because it was high school graduation weekend, that they'd wanted to have another audit. So we did have one more audit at the town center area, where I believe it was Heather and Adam kind of led that charge, and then I did another one at the Whalum area, because that was also indicated that that was wanted. So we had 3 public outreach meetings in total. And the summary of the findings, so for the town center, we realized that there were a need for sidewalks in a couple of areas, mostly the Main Street area. The Memorial Drive was a really prevalent one. And then Highland Oak Street intersection was a challenge. There was crosswalks, but they didn't really lead to much, and it was a really challenging intersection to navigate in your vehicle and on foot. And we also had Carolyn, who was handicapped in a wheelchair, and she was a wealth of knowledge and really showed us the things that we wouldn't have normally seen and how difficult it was for her to get around in her wheelchair. That was perfect to have her there. It was great.
Very beneficial.
Yes, I think that was probably the most beneficial. I think in one town, we actually had a select board member in a wheelchair who wasn't handicapped accessible, just to see how it would feel like, and that was also eye-opening for a lot of people. So for Whalum area, Route 13, Whalum Road, and then of course the town beach, which was a major focus for that area of town. For the roadways, there was a lot of talk of speeding, especially on the major roads, Mass Ave, Memorial Drive, and then how we could traffic calming for those areas. The intersection again of Oak Street and Highland came up a number of times. And then again, Whalum speeding along Route 13 in the Whalum Town Beach area. For crosswalks, I think the biggest takeaway was that there were a number of crosswalks that didn't lead to necessarily sidewalks or have any curb ramps or anything like that, so it was just a blunt surface. And then there were lacking sidewalks where there may have, there were walkways that would go to the road and then just end. So that was what we had indicated here for both areas of town. Trails, there wasn't much talk of trails, although there was a little bit with the Marshall Park and potential connections to to Highland Street. Highland Street. That was the only one that was really mentioned for the public input. There are a number of parks and gathering spots, which is really nice. Shade trees, benches, those were things that we were all looking for. And then access to those areas, make sure that it's accessible for bikes and pedestrians and strollers and things like that. Let's see. Shade trees and benches, I already mentioned. Parking, like this was one of the major components of the study. So although it was kind of briefly described in this section, because parking wasn't really discussed much more than any of the other concerns during the public input, we did go back and delved into a little bit further in our recommendation section further along. But it seemed to be that for the town center, parking considerably along Memorial Drive was brought up a lot. How we can make more parking for town hall and the town center in general. So there was two things that came out of that, was just, some additional parking on Memorial Drive, try to make something work over there, and then maybe the thought of an additional municipal lot where the old fire station was across near the Ritter building, in that lot right there. For Whalum, the town beach was the focus, pretty much the focus. That's where we actually met and walked around there. We had met with Jack from DPW, and we went over a couple of options on the road widths and how much the town owns for roadway, right-of-way, and if we could actually make a sidewalk or parking work in that area. It seemed to be probably one or the other, but putting both would be a little bit overly challenging from what I remember. So that would be something that would have to be analyzed a bit further, but it did come up quite a bit. Attractions, that didn't come up quite a lot, but it did, there were a lot of things going on, many businesses, restaurants, and parks in the center. And then Whalum, again, has like CVS, it has parks, it has that major apartment and condo complex. There's a lot of people out and about and walking. And then Wallace Park was mentioned. So after that, we did some data collection. We have a number of traffic volumes readily available. That's what we do in the summer. Primarily, we have interns that do traffic counts. So we gathered a bunch of data from our website and the state website on where the highest volumes are. It's no doubt that, Lancaster, 2A, 13, those are the heavily traveled roads. And we also did Memorial Drive, and there's only 150 cars. That is significant because we are going to talk about potential changes to Memorial Drive as a recommendation, and we wanted to see what the volume was to see how much of an impact that would have on that traffic. Another one was Pond Street, east of Prospect, so that was only 790 cars, even though they do seem to be excessive during the summer when people are trying to park near the beach, but in reality, there's not a ton of traffic right there. It is going to be challenging to slow them down for the people who are going to the beach. Crash history overall wasn't too crazy. I mean, the major intersections had some issues, but nothing that really stood out where it would be in need of further analysis in my mind. It's not one of the top crashes in our whole region. Definitely not one of the top 200 in the state or anything like that. Those are the ones that we usually tend to look at a little bit further.
Not Route 2.
It's not Route 2, thank goodness. Inventory of road facilities. This is where we went out and we analyzed what existed for signage to make sure that crossing signs, pedestrian signs, speed limit signs were all inventoried. That'll just be useful in future planning. And then parking. So we did all the major public parking lots, and we inventoried how many spaces and how many handicap spaces are available. There was a change from the original draft based on some input from Heather and Adam. So the Ritter building, I only accounted for 1/2 of the parking. I didn't realize there was a back lot. So we added that too, where there was one handicap spot. So that is a change from the previous document. So we did that for the center, the Lunenburg area. And then we get to the recommendations. These are also on the maps. So the maps kind of go along with everything that I've mentioned for our data that we had put in the report. So we have our crash maps, we have the traffic volume maps, we have the sign inventory maps, and then we also have the recommendation parking, and then recommendation maps. So there is an abundance of maps here, and I know they're sometimes a little bit hard to read, and they're also very hard to map, because we're not graphic designers. So doing the recommendation map was always a little challenging sometimes when you're trying to show you're going to remove a road or add a road. It's kind of just trying to show you it like how we could. But some of the big highlights of the recommendations, I'm going to focus on the town center first, were that Highland Street, Oak Ave intersection. Jack and I had walked it a couple of times, and I know there was talk in town, maybe not outwardly, but there was a little bit of some discussion about how to tee off that intersection so it wouldn't be such a yield. I know it's a stop right now, but if we teed it off, the sight distance would be a lot better, and you could actually continue that sidewalk to go all the way through where you might not have such an angle on it. That would just be green space, perhaps, where I have that green box, where we potentially remove that portion of Highland Street, tee it up to Oak Ave, and then it would be a lot safer that way. That was just one of the big recommendations. And then there's Memorial Drive, which there was some controversy, but it did seem that the public input session seemed a little bit more positive to this idea, which was, I hesitant to say it on TV, but it would be to make Memorial Drive a one-way street going from west to east towards the park, from Town Hall towards the park. That would be the direction, because there were actually more cars going that way when we did the traffic count, and more parking naturally goes in that direction already for Town Hall parking. That would free up potentially parallel parking from where it currently is, with those 3 spots near the church and across from the Boys and Girls Club. It would go all the way to where Memorial Drive takes the right towards the library. So that would be parking all along the side, which would allow for parking for Town Hall. It would allow for parking for the senior center, the park, any overflow parking.
Are you still assuming it's parallel parking?
Yeah, we did put it for parallel parking. It could probably be angled parking as well, which would add additional spots, because you are taking that whole half a road width. So whatever would make sense right there. I didn't have the measurements throughout the whole roadway, but we just wanted to indicate that would add parking if we were to do it that way. And then the sidewalk on the opposite side of the street, on the senior center side, would be included in that. And then the other reason why the traffic would go in that direction was that
Toward the library.
towards the library, yep. So if it were in reverse, we did it in reverse in our we went and drove it a couple of times, and the sight distance coming out onto Main Street is tough. And coming out onto Mass Ave, even though there's a bit of speeding, there's not typically a lot of times during the day when the senior center is busy for their lunch or the town hall is busy. During those hours, during the day, Mass Ave is not as busy. So coming out onto Mass Ave, there's sight distances beyond what you would need for any roadway. And just the fact that there's not a lot of traffic there is key.
Do you have to do anything with the state because it's, going on to Mass Ave?
I don't think so, no, you wouldn't be
'Cause you're-
changing anything on their
Yeah, because you're
roadway.
already going out.
You would just be adding
Oh.
a sign that says, "Do not enter this way." So that was the two major, oh, and then also if you wanted to add some parking for the senior center, there was talk, I guess there's been talk about potentially moving some portion of the playground on Memorial Drive and moving it over to the far east side. So that would actually allow for a smaller parking lot right there for the senior center, which would also get them off of the street. And you could probably do more handicap access to their well, I guess it'd be their side door right there. So that was the big thoughts for the town center. Let's see, for Whalum was a little bit more challenging. I mean, adding sidewalks was a big one for especially Route 13. We saw a lot of people walking on 13, which was surprising. And the, is it Emerald
Place?
Emerald Place? So there was some walkways that actually brought you to Route 13, but once you got there, there was no real safe way to walk along the roadway or cross. So there was a crossing sign, but no crosswalk. I saw that intersection where CVS was kind of a little bit of a challenge there too, getting around there. And then getting down to the town beach, where the highlights of the sidewalk addition. And then for parking, I believe that it would either be at a sidewalk from the little roundabout area all the way down to the beach, or add some parking spaces down there if there was enough room where you could maybe shift the road north a little bit, if the right-of-way existed, which, according to Jack, he thought it did. So if we could just move the road up, that would give that space for probably one or the other. I don't think there's enough for both, but I did include it on here just in case for further analysis. So based on that, and then I also, at the end of the report, it did kind of just go over a couple of ways how you could get funding for these types of projects through the state. Obviously, MRPC is more than happy to help walk you through any process, but I know you've done this process before, so, but we're willing to give you data or anything that's needed to try to get any of these projects implemented. All right.
I have some comments. When you talk about making Memorial Drive one way, I would think that would be a simple thing to try out without going through, Chief, what do you think? Could you make it temporarily, not in the dead of winter, but in the spring or something, make it one way for a while just to try it out before you do a lot of construction?
We actually talked about that and suggested that might be a plan, just to see how it works.
Just sort of try before you buy, because there's certain expenses involved with actually doing it and changing the parking and everything. And if you could set it up temporarily just to see how it worked,
Yeah.
that may be worthwhile.
It was something we discussed, my recollection, I don't know if it was with Sherry, but we discussed doing that temporarily. Actually, I think it might work better that way in terms of flow, because it's very narrow. So if a car's coming in from the library side and there's a car going out the library side, particularly on the corner by Kids Kingdom, it gets a little congested, particularly if there's something going on at the senior center, because they park all the way down to the corner. So that would eliminate those problems.
Yeah, but if we tried it out, we could say, all right, are there unintended consequences that you could maybe fix while you were re-engineering it?
No, I agree, and I'm not at all opposed to it. As a matter of fact, I know I mentioned it.
Well, I knew it was a good idea, it must have been yours.
Another good thing about that project is that it would be a low-cost change, because it's just some
Right.
simple striping and road pavement, like paint on the road, so it's not nearly as in-depth as some of the other ones, like near the town beach. That would be a
Yeah,
bit
well,
pricier.
even on the town beach, you know, you mentioned here, making it, what was it, or is it one-way, or?
Oh, that was brought up by one of the members of
Chris,
the
right?
public. Yep,
What's
so
that?
that was something that was brought up that I know got some mixed reviews, was that during the beach hours in the summer, to block off, to make that section of roadway a one-way, so you could allow for parking, and then the other people would go up some of the side roads. But the biggest concern with that is the sight distance when you're coming out of,
Pond Street?
You know, one person mentioned that, but there are a lot worse streets in town
right.
than that.
But that's why we
It's
did a
like-
traffic count there, to see how many people that would impact. And I actually believe I included that in the report, that during those hours that the beach would be open, I wrote down how many, a number of vehicles that typically would pass during that time. But I can't find it right now.
And that's actually another thing you could try before you buy, right?
Right.
You could have the lifeguards put the things out before the beach opens, pull them back in when the beach closes, so that people will be inconvenienced when necessary
Yep.
and not when it's not necessary.
Right.
It seems like, again,
That would be definitely education and all component of that, to let people know that that's going on. And
Right.
I really would want to make sure that that's safe coming out of that roadway, just because if people are only going up the hill, to avoid where you're not able to go straight any longer, you're trying to do that detour, it'll be a little bit potential
like
for
I
some
said, it's not
speeding
as
around those
challenging as
corners.
a lot of other streets in town right now, you know.
Right.
And I think if it, again, just to try it out, to see, what are the issues, is it a dumb idea, or really will it take care of the immediate problem?
Yeah, well, anything new is going to get some pushback at first anyway, but it'll be good to try.
We don't like change.
No.
So I thought that both of those things were worth a try. And, changing the Kids Kingdom playground, I feel like if you're thinking about relocating playground equipment, they're going to replace it, they're not going to want to relocate it. So it's not as inexpensive as moving furniture.
Right, right.
And a lot of people are pretty emotionally involved in that playground and wanting to keep it where it is. I know at the time when we were over there, we were talking about how much land does the town own behind the senior center? Could you drive down and establish parking behind it? And nobody seemed to know, but I'd like to know the answer to that question. Is there land we're not thinking about, that we just don't see in front of us, so we're not thinking about it? So, I think parking at the level of the senior center would be great, but I'd like to do it so that it doesn't inconvenience or disrupt the playground if at all possible.
Yeah.
So I
yeah.
would think that would be worth looking into. And when we talk about adding sidewalks, I know tonight, before this meeting, I went over to the Boys and Girls Club because they were having a little cookie event for people that help out with the Boys and Girls Club. And I couldn't go on the sidewalk because it wasn't plowed. If the town is going to add sidewalks, we need to make a commitment to plow them in the winter, or I don't think it's a worthwhile endeavor. So I think before, we need to step back and say, all right, what sidewalks do we need? And I think that's one that we need. Then it needs to be plowed. If it's not going to be plowed, then we, there's no point in adding more sidewalks if we're not going to take care of the ones we have. And I haven't done a lot of walking, so I don't know. Maybe that's the only sidewalk that's not plowed, and I just,
Sidewalk that wasn't plowed, that section at the parking lot.
the only,
Sidewalk in town that wasn't plowed.
yeah, well, I was just about to say that.
Sidewalk in town that wasn't plowed. That section you're speaking of.
Oh, that's the only place, that's the only sidewalk I tried to access. That's all I know.
That one's particularly challenging too, because it's not a real sidewalk. It dips. You have two granite curbs and it's low, it's not flush with,
Yeah, it goes
The
left
curbs,
into the
right.
parking lot of the Boys and Girls Club.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a unique one.
But anyway, great. I'm glad we're committed to plowing our sidewalks, and we need to be committed to plowing any sidewalk we get.
And also consider that snow is only usually for a couple months, so the most of the time that people could access the sidewalks would be during the other
have to
times.
assume a third of the year.
Yeah,
So I don't want to plow I don't want to create the expensive sidewalks if we're only going to maintain them 2/3 of the year, personally. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I think this is a very thorough report, so thank you for all the energy and effort you've poured into this. And thank you for your patience tonight while I managed a personal issue.
no problem.
I appreciate that.
I think these maps that you gave us are great. They really break down the traffic counts and, the extent of the sidewalks, and it's helpful for people to visualize who aren't familiar with it, or even if you are familiar with it, to actually see it in front of you that way. It's
Great. Thank you. I learned a lot by being here so much, and the town was great to work with. Everyone was super helpful, so I appreciate that too. And the public outreach blew my mind. Couldn't believe how many people were here.
And the walks were great.
Yeah.
You know, it was very
It's
educational.
probably my most favorite part of this project, just walking around and talking to people. You get so much more information that way. So,
No,
And same to you.
It was fun.
Wonderful working with Sherry too. She did a great job.
It is.
could I add one thing that isn't this related, but we just got approved for a grant from Tufts for age-friendly communities. And I know Lunenburg, I had spoke with you maybe last month or so, asking if you'd be interested, and you said that you thought you would be. So we did get that grant.
Okay.
So we'll be working with you hopefully in the near future to talk about what age-friendly means and how we could try to get it incorporated for the community and get you age-friendly certified. So we will be doing most of that work, and that will involve a lot of public outreach again. So we'll be getting in touch soon.
That'd be excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we certainly have an increasingly aging population.
You're not alone. We applied for another grant to do our entire region, but this one, we applied for both of them, and this one was the one that was awarded first. So we haven't heard back from the other one yet, but so that's exciting.
Yep. We are a dementia-friendly community, and
is
we've
great.
talked about, at our action group meetings, talked about becoming age-friendly and what that means. So that's something that group has talked about exploring, getting
Great.
to that
That's
point.
perfect
So
segue. That's
I'll-
awesome.
I'll bring that back to them and the Council on Aging Director as well.
It sounds funny though, doesn't it? Age-friendly. Why would you
Yeah.
be age-unfriendly?
Yeah.
I think the two
Friendly of all
movements
ages.
were kind of, they weren't,
They did kind of go hand in hand, but typically it's age-friendly and then dementia-friendly, so you guys flipped it a bit, and which will probably hopefully make it easier. You've done a lot of the work already.
good.
Well, we're old.
Some of us.
Yeah.
All right, well, reach out if you have any additional comments. I think I'll give it to the end of the week. Does that sound appropriate? If you have anything that you want changed or edited or anything, and then I'll just make it final and we'll put it up online.
All right, thank you.
Great,
Okay?
thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Jerry.
Is there public comment on this?
To the chair?
I apologize, I'm late to the game, but I found this fascinating. Was this report commissioned by the selectmen?
I applied for a DLTA grant, a District Local Technical Assistance grant through MRPC, which we received, and it was part of that program.
Cool, so were there particular pain points that we're trying to address? I understand there was some great information in here. And I guess, more importantly, is there a plan to execute on some of these things moving forward? Or is this kind of what informational ends here?
I think if I can.
Yes, please.
It ties into a lot of other work that the town's been working towards, like complete streets, connectivity, focusing on those areas, and it ties into that well. And I think the hope is that we can, take
I
away
mean, a
at
lot
some
of
of
great
these.
work was done here, and so I was just
Right,
hoping
and, you
that,
know, and some of the things that we can do not very expensively, right?
Yeah.
So we want to start chipping away at it and making some positive changes.
cool. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, this is being presented to us as a draft. So it's also our, well, we've had probably a week to look at it, but it's also our first time kind of looking at it. So I expect that there will be workshops and other things to address some of the recommendations going forward.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a public hearing. The Lunenburg Licensing Authority will hold a public hearing on December 10th, 2019, at 7:30 PM in Town Hall, 17 Main Street, second floor, Lunenburg, Mass., on the application submitted by Embers Pizzeria, Inc., for a transfer of a restaurant all alcohol Section 12 license from KJ Waterfront, Inc., DBA Embers Pizzeria, located at 84 Lakefront Street, Lunenburg, Mass. The premises is described as a one-story wood frame building with 2 entrances and exit, lounge, dining room, kitchen, and storage room with an outdoor patio, 640 square feet. Thomas Lanzo, Chairman, Board of Selectmen, Licensing Authority. Could we have the proponents come forward?
And Madam Chair, while they're coming forward, our threshold voting-wise tonight, is it plurality of members present, or do we need 3?
No, it's just a majority present.
Okay.
Good question.
Good evening. I'm Ken Ricker. I'm the owner of Embers Pizza at the moment.
And could you introduce yourselves, please?
Yep, my name is Lena Grosser. So, me and my husband Randy Grosser, we're the ones planning on buying Embers Pizzeria.
Make sure that you can speak into the microphone so you can be heard.
Okay, should I repeat myself?
Sure.
Okay, my name is Lena Grosser,
I'm Randy Grosser.
and we're the ones planning on buying Embers Pizzeria.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicants?
Yes, I have a few. So it looks as if you guys are purchasing the business and the property, is that right?
That is correct.
All right, do you have a alcohol policy that you plan on implementing at your business?
As far as the logbook,
Yes,
As far as a policy for your employees to follow, tips, training, et cetera?
yeah.
yes,
Do you
absolutely.
have that with you tonight?
I think all the paperwork is,
Maybe I don't know if I saw that in this packet. I'll take another look. So, I'll ask you, Heather, do you remember seeing that in this packet? Thanks.
Packet.
We actually worked on that together. I have a policy drafted, which I've always had for my businesses, and they're basically assuming the same policy. We went over it recently. My policy, you should have, it's on record, because I've been there
All right.
for 5 years.
So I guess what I'm asking you, and this isn't, I'm not asking you any trick questions. I don't expect that you're going to have any problem getting this approved tonight. But what I'm wondering is, do you have previous experience selling alcohol?
I do not.
We do not.
Okay. As you've developed your policy, is it your intention to require all of your employees to be tips certified?
Yes.
The ones that need to be, yes.
Okay, the ones that serve alcohol?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I'll pause on my questions while I look through this for that policy.
I have a question. Several residents complained to me over the summer about the patio being really loud, really late.
No, I think you're confusing that with On the Rocks. That's my other property next door. I'm not selling that. This is Embers Pizza.
Well, which one has the outdoor seating?
Both.
You're talking about On the Rocks. The lady complained a couple times, and we dealt with it. But Embers has never had a complaint filed. We checked on that. We close at 10 o'clock, and there's not going to be any issues there.
Oh, the patio's closed at 10 o'clock?
The restaurant closes at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so, all right. So-
Yeah, it's more of a family atmosphere at Embers Pizzeria.
Okay, sorry, I probably was confused.
I can understand why. They're next door to each other.
Yeah, they're right next to each other.
So they're assuming my business and my employees and the way it is, and all my employees are tip certified, which is in that because it has to be for the license renewal. And my liquor policy or my policy for the alcohol, like I said, they're assuming to follow. So all my employees, which will be their employees, are updated and tip certified as well as Randy and Lena.
Yes.
So I think everything here is what was forwarded to us, and I don't see it. So I'll keep going. This is a
Has to
summary.
be in your file.
Yeah, I don't
It's in
believe you
Ken's
have
file.
that because that's not something they require. For you to ask for it, I understand, but we can get that to you at a later date for that policy, but in order for us to transfer, it's not a requirement. So we wouldn't, I don't think it would be in the packet.
So now you're going to be neighbors.
Yes?
Yeah,
Yes.
well,
Well, we're already neighbors
they own
now.
the building on the other side of me.
We own the dog retreat,
You own the what?
the lakefront dog retreat.
Oh,
And they live about, what,
On Lake
500
Whalen.
Yeah, we live on Lake Whalen. I grew up on Lake Whalen. Went to Lunenburg High School, graduated Lunenburg High, so
Good.
we're vested in the area,
oh, that's great to hear.
yeah.
No, it's not in there. And I went through the packet. So I guess what I want to be kind of clear on what it is I'm looking for. I think it's really important that we don't serve alcohol to minors. I think we all can agree on that. However, we know it happens, from time to time. And one of the things that it's kind of a good way to make sure that doesn't accidentally occur is for business owners to take it upon themselves to create policies in which that's a requirement of their employees. So I guess what I'm looking for from you guys is what your policy will be, how you intend on training your employees to ensure that alcohol does not accidentally get served to a minor. I imagine that in a pizza business, I'm sure you guys will employ some people who are 18 or summer jobs, people pretty close to the drinking age, where it's very tempting to, when you have alcohol on the premises, to hook up your buddy, so to speak. So that's what I'm looking for. And those are all my questions centered around that. Thanks.
I don't have a problem with it at all, and
I'll accept a motion.
yeah, I'd make a motion that we approve the transfer of the license as proposed.
All in favor?
Oh, we need a second on that.
Oh, second. Anyone? Okay.
Can we require that they submit their alcohol policy within the next 2 weeks?
I need this to go through now because we're doing something. I have the policy in my car if you want to approve.
What I'm suggesting is that we approve the motion, and that as part of the motion that we require that they, within 2 weeks of this approval, that they submit their policy for our review.
So is that an amendment?
That
On
would
the
be.
motion?
I'm suggesting an amendment to the motion, yes.
I know what you're getting at, but it's not something that it's not part of the application for the transmittal. It's not something that we required of everyone else or that they knew about before they had to come here tonight. So if you want to make a policy change moving forward, I can see that, but I wouldn't feel good about dropping that on them tonight out of nowhere.
I think that they have a policy, though, that they've said that they do have, so it's just a matter of, just making a requirement for them to present it to us. They've already agreed to do that.
As long as it won't hold up the transfer, if the transfer goes through, it's not something I want to see Boston get hung up on.
Yeah, right.
It's like you're saying, did you do this to the last transfer that happened? When,
I don't think we've ever had to do it, because it usually only comes up when someone has a violation, the police
and I,
come before us and we say, do you have a policy?
and I think going forward, you should probably do that, but tonight, where it wasn't
Right.
part of the application, it wasn't something that we're required to do. I have it, it's in my car, I'll gladly get it, but right now, I would just appreciate if you just did the transfer, so we could start our process, because it's been an extremely long process, and we're just trying to finish it up. And not-
And if the motion is clean, it'll be easier.
Yep,
Yes.
exactly.
Are you okay with that?
No, but I think that I certainly support what they're doing. I don't have any problem with it. I don't have a problem supporting the motion. I think that as a matter of, what we're doing, it's prudent, in my opinion, that if you're serving alcohol, that you have a policy in place. And the gentleman has expressed that he has a policy. The owners have said that, they're residents of Lunenburg. Certainly this isn't anything personal against you, that there's a policy in place. I think it's just, I'm asking for there to be a requirement for them to do what he's saying that he will already do.
So, I agree with Damon that it's something that we should discuss as a board, and if we would like to, make it a requirement, but it is not a requirement now, and I agree that it's unfair to drop it on them at the last moment.
And there's a lot, I mean,
We're
I think
gonna-
I think it wants a bigger discussion because, I mean, they're a business owner, they can change their own policy anytime you want to. How are you gonna record it with the town and keep track of all that? So it's, again, I think it's something, bigger discussion for later that we can't force on them now, or shouldn't force on them now.
None of us want underage.
Certainly. I will support this motion. However, if you hear what I'm getting at, I ask, though, that you would that you have a policy in place and that you make it available. It's certainly not a document that needs our approval for, but just having that policy, that way it, helps everyone else out along
And
the
I have
way.
that policy, and like I said, once you transfer this, you can read it tonight, because I'll come back and give it to you,
I think I asked you the same question on the planning board when you went for the extension of your business.
which I had.
Yeah.
So if you had it in the notes, you'll see that I have it. Again, so.
Okay.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna get that and bring it to you, but I'm not gonna interrupt you, so I'll leave it with you if that's okay. And you can look at it what you think.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next hearing at 7:45 is a liquor license change of manager for S.E. Flan, DBA Sean Patrick's, 494 Electric Ave, alcohol license 000-RS-0636. Is anyone present?
Yes, Sean Flanagan.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
In this case, you are just becoming the manager? You're just changing management?
Yeah, my sister was the manager for 18, 20 years. She's no longer in the building full-time. She works off-site. So in compliance with the laws, the manager has to be on site, like 40 hours a week. So that would be me.
Okay, any questions for Sean?
I have the same question that I asked the previous person. Do you have a alcohol policy?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Do you have a problem making that available to us?
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
No?
I would entertain a motion.
Move we approve the change of manager for Sean Patrick's as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One quick question, if I could. I went through a purchase and sale agreement that fell through, and the other corporation incurred some taxes that I had to pay. Just some clarification on that, or will that continue to happen?
They incurred taxes on your property?
Yeah, on the license, personal property taxes. I had to come up and pay them this morning. It's kind of confusing. It's Golden Pyramids is a corporation. It's not even my company.
Do you know anything?
I'd have to look into it. Yeah,
Okay.
Elaine, spoke with Elaine.
My general manager did. I can call Elaine and just try to work through it.
Okay.
Do that? All right.
That wasn't very nice, was it?
No, it was a bummer, but, it's over. It's
Was it a
done.
lot of money?
No, 276,
Okay,
so. Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. 7:50, special one-day beer and wine license for Smokestack Roasters LLC, 39 Massachusetts Avenue, December 27th, 2019, 2 p.m. to midnight.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Jacqueline Nickel. I'm the co-owner of Smokestack Roasters at 39 Mass Ave.
And you're also the tip certified person.
Yes, I am. Yep, that was an interesting learning session. It was good.
And you will be serving liquor at both events?
Absolutely, yep. Just beer and wine. And we will have a staff of a 1-to-10 ratio to guests. And I anticipate that at least half of my servers will be, well, everybody serving alcohol will be E-tip certified. Half of the employees at the gig will be as well.
And one of them's a private party? Is this one the private party?
So there's two venues, events. On the 27th, we're hosting a private party, which we've engaged with. We're going to provide espresso bar and then beer and wine as well, and they bring the entertainment and the food and everything else. And then on the January 4th, we're going to have a public party, just a couple of hours that we give back to the community, free beer and wine. And we're going to do a Yankee swap party. So I thought we could have a public event to use up some of the alcohol left over from the party.
Within,
Any questions?
I do. Within your business model, 'cause I know you were here before us,
Yep.
in front of us a few weeks maybe a few months ago, also asking for something similar. Within your model, how often do you expect that you're going to sell or provide alcohol during the year?
Initially, we thought that we were going to be strictly coffee, no alcohol, but a lot of people have asked for live events, music, beer, alcohol. At this phase, I don't foresee it within the next 6 months at least. I think it does make sense to ask for my annual license, so I don't need to request personal, day-to-day permits. But right now, it's just the two of us. We have no employees. We can't burn the candle at both ends of the day. So it's pretty much a daytime coffee only, no beer and wine, unless we do like a Sunday mimosa thing. But I don't foresee it being a major part of our business.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And to your other question, I will have my draft SOP for you, and I solicit your feedback. So let me know what you think. Everybody will be trained. We'll have an incident log. I don't want any liability. So
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the special one-day beer and wine license on the 27th.
Make a motion to approve the license for the 27th from 2 to 12 a.m., 2 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So now, the special one-day beer and wine license for Smokestack Roasters LLC, 39 Massachusetts Ave, on January 4th, 2020, 2 to 5 p.m.
Motion to approve. Those-
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
Have fun.
January 4th. I'll see you then.
So we're almost caught up.
Yeah. Town managers report.
Mind if I come back up real quick?
No.
Sure.
Yes.
This is my Embers Pizzeria Service Training Manual, and I just want you to see it, read it, and if you can, this is my only copy, it's kind of beat up now, but can you just make a copy, or have Elaine make copies, keep one on file? I did this, I used to own a place in Leominster called the Luxury Box,
Oh,
and I did the service training manual for them too, for myself there, and Leominster adopted it, and now all licensed premises use it. If you would like to adopt it and use it for all the premises in Lunenburg, if they don't have their own, because it's pretty lengthy, I did it all, and it's like probably 20 pages. But you can have it, take a look at it. Every employee that comes in has to read it, go through it, sign it.
So you wouldn't mind if we adopted it for
I
Lunenburg?
wouldn't, because Leominster didn't, it's a great, it's great for that reason. Keep
I
everyone-
appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all, but you have it, and then I'll have Elaine. just
We'll
make
get
a
it back to you.
note when you
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we can do the
Oh,
ratification.
Oh, that's right, sorry about that.
All right.
Okay, interviews, appointments, reappointments, resignations, the ratification of the town manager appointment for Reserve Police Officer Amanda Moore.
So, pleased to make this appointment tonight and ask for your ratification for Amanda Moore as a Reserve Police Officer. And in your packet is a letter from Chief Marino that I believe he'll go further into.
Okay, thanks for having us tonight. I'm pleased to recommend Amanda Moore for appointment to the position of Reserve Police Officer. Amanda has been employed by the Lunenburg Police Department as Public Safety Coordinator since July of 2017. To comply with her job description, Amanda has successfully completed the Municipal Police Training Committee Reserve Intermittent Police Training Academy at a field school in Boylston, Massachusetts, an employee physical and a physical agility test. The Public Safety Coordinator, in addition to many other duties, is responsible for processing firearms licenses, which involves reviewing CORI sensitive information. Amanda is also a custodian of the confidential police files within the guidelines of public disclosure. In addition, she will qualify for training as a sexual assault investigator promulgated by Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 97B, wherein the police department is mandated to establish a sexual assault reporting and prosecution unit, and is encouraged by statute to make efforts to employ female police officers to serve in those units. Amanda has distinguished herself as a very hardworking, conscientious, reliable, and likable employee who I highly recommend for this position for reasons I've already stated and because of the importance of having female officers on staff who will be available to augment our sexual assault reporting and prosecution unit whenever necessary. So I thank you for consideration of this request. We do have 2 other female sexual assault investigators, but the more the better, because we don't know what time these calls are going to come in or who's going to be available when it happens. And if we need to call on one of them, then a pool is better than one.
No, I agree, Chief, and especially in sexual assault reporting, it's got to be such a devastating and emotional situation, and I would assume a woman would much rather talk to a woman.
In most cases, that is
Yeah.
the case.
Thank you for taking that into consideration.
I don't know if you know this, I mean, this is just a little history. Actually, the public safety coordinator's position, before it was even called that, the person who worked in that position was always appointed as either a matron or a reserve police officer. As a matter of fact, Amanda's grandmother was one. She happened to be there when I started back in 1979. So kind of a coincidental turn of events there.
So I'd make a motion to approve or ratify the appointment of reserve officer to Amanda Moore.
Second.
All in favor?
I'd like to make a comment before you vote. I think this is excellent. I think Amanda has a really good history here in the town. I think she comes from a family of public service. And, I remember her down at DPW some years back. So it's really good to see this kind of growth from, personal growth, especially within the town, and seeing a person, from when they were a pretty young adult, I think, before you had children, and then now, married and children and, working for the town in these different capacities. This is a really tough role that you're about to assume. Trust is, the power, I guess, is something that is temporary. It's something that we hold, but not something that we have. So I think it's, certainly you've demonstrated over the course of your time with us so far that you certainly possess the skills and talents necessary. So it is quite an honor to be able to support this appointment.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, sure. Want to be further down Just giving it a second
Yep.
for the noise to die down.
Thank you.
I don't need to sign anything.
No. See the yellow ones again.
We would like to move down to current business. Item 2, credit purchase and sale agreement with Lockbrook Solar LLC.
You have to sign the other pages too.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. My name is Charles Nutter, and I work for a Boston-based solar developer called Nexamp. We have been doing work in the state of Massachusetts since 2007, founded by a couple of Iraq veterans back from the Army. And in the last 7 or 8 years, we've focused really on commercial, primarily ground mount solar installations. Part of that work is selling the energy in large part to municipalities and other public entities around the state. And so that is the contract that's before the board tonight. We entered into a very, very similar contract with a solar array that we developed and built in Fitchburg. I believe in 2016, the project went live. Essentially, the way that this process works. So, we develop, build, finance, operate, maintain these solar facilities. I'm sure you've seen them, driving by on the road. There are quite quite a few in the area. That electricity is fed onto the utility grid, in this case Unitil, and the way that towns can benefit is they can see monetary credits on their electricity bills directly from the generation that happens at the project. So we're not feeding it into a building or anything like that. We're feeding it directly onto the grid, and you're able to see each month sort of the credit that was generated for each account that the town would choose to enroll. So this is something that, the vast majority of public entities in Massachusetts have entered into. These contracts support not only the financing of the project, but sort of directly support clean energy generation being built in the state, and having those benefits go to taxpayers eventually, reducing municipal spending in a variety of ways. So I mentioned we are currently already working with the town of Lunenburg. We also have a few facilities that are serving the city of Fitchburg, and of course we're permitting and coming to tax agreements with towns in the local area. So this particular project is located in Townsend, Mass. Its qualification is such that it is required to be sold. The energy credits are required to be sold to public entities at a discount. So for every $100 that you'd actually see on a monthly bill, we would then charge the town $85. So you'd see essentially what, if you're taking a look at your Unitil bill, you'd see a negative line item that says $100. You'd see that total come right off the top of your bill, and then in the following month, we would invoice the town for $85. So this is actually a very similar program to what we are able to offer in the form of community solar. So town residents, we've worked with Heather to get notices out to town residents. It's a similar program for residents that we're able to offer from some of these projects. The state has really been successful in promoting these programs, and what it all comes down to is the town or residents, small businesses, nonprofits are able to receive guaranteed reductions in their electric bills. For our smaller community solar subscriptions, that's a relatively flexible commitment. There's no credit score required for people to participate, as I'm sure, I believe it's at the middle high school tomorrow night. Another information session where we'll have a few of our community solar team members out there to just hear questions and sort of run through the program for everyone. Either way, that's what the contract that's sort of before the town that I've been working with Heather is, and I wanted to be here and make myself available if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Yes. So, community solar, you can back out of that after 6 months notice, but this one is a 20-year agreement, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, a couple things stand out to me. The first is, let me step back from this. I'm going to support this motion tonight because I expect that the chair, Mr. Alonso, who's not here tonight, would be in favor of this, and I don't want to hold this up. However, and I've had the opportunity to talk to Heather to express some of my concerns, so I'm just going to vocalize them more globally.
Sure.
But certainly it's not going to impact my decision here tonight. So the first thing is a 20-year agreement. When we look at the government's, federal government's plans on how we are going to meet the needs of the future, in addition to having a comprehensive plan of solar and renewable sources of energy, it's also a plan to reduce consumption. So, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we probably didn't envision that we'd be using LEDs, which, get so much less energy than, what we were used to. I would like to say that I cannot today envision that the energy needs in 10 years from now, what they exactly will be, but I would put a little hypothesis out there and say that they're going to be less. So the energy credits are based on usage today, correct?
Correct.
So if our usage goes down in 10 years from now and we're no longer needing as much, does this work to our advantage or to our disadvantage?
does this work towards? So that's a good question, and certainly something that I get a good amount of the time. I would say that up front, the first thing we try to do is avoid that problem in the future. Agreed. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in 10 years. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in 5 years. And the LED lighting example is a good one. So we start at least to try to take a little bit of the perceived risk in that scenario out by not trying to match the spending and usage on the bill exactly with the credit value. So what we typically do is we look at it bill, determine how much usage has happened on that account in the past 12 months, however much history we have, and we translate that into a dollar figure, sort of how much does the town spend on the town hall bill, for example. And so we use Unitil electricity rates to come up with an example. Say that's $10,000 in a year. Right away, we're only going to recommend allocating $8,500 of credits to that account. So we build in right away a 15% buffer, assuming or allowing for potential reductions in usage. On a short term, it's obviously kind of tough to tell. In 1 year, is there going to be a little bit more usage or a little bit less? That's hard to tell, but we do try to take that eventuality into account up front. I think probably what you're getting at is, ultimately the 20 years is a pretty long time span to lock in any one thing, especially something like electricity usage. You don't necessarily know which buildings will be in use in that time frame. And so, one thing that's important about the agreement, so the length is important to us, generally to our lenders, to actually, have a revenue source that's contracted long term. So it's a piece that has been essentially market in Massachusetts and in a lot of other markets. The other piece to this particular project is that it has qualified. It's very slightly different than a community solar project in the sense that the particular incentive it qualified for requires that all of these credits need to go to public entities, so City of Fitchburg, local school district, something like that.
I want to ask you a question as well, another one. So if in 5 years from now we decide to build a significantly large solar plant on our old town dump, we are then still required to purchase, right, 85% of our energy from you guys.
That would be correct for the accounts in question. So there are other agreements and other, I have not reviewed the entirety of the town's electricity spending, but you'd be right. Whatever the percentage would be effectively locked in. So there are two things, I guess. One, pursuing a project on top of a landfill or another piece of town property is not, the utility in that is not entirely in the energy sales. We quite frequently work with public entities in such a way that property would be leased, and you could, arrange that sort of project, if you will, to optimize the actual lease revenue to the town. So just because, and that energy can be sold elsewhere within the Unitil territory. So say there was a bid that the town ran for, Nexamp 1 to build a project on that, on the town's land, we would lock in a long-term lease revenue stream, and then it would be our responsibility to sell the electricity elsewhere.
Yeah.
One piece of that, is even in the, 5 or so years that I've worked here, the discounts have pretty consistently stepped down. We've come down from the last time we had an agreement here. That's in large part due to the fact that the state, has provided more incentives up front to get an industry that's now pretty mature off the ground. So,
but just so I'm clear with what you're saying is, and my understanding, speaking with the town manager, is that this is going to kind of finalize all of our energy usage around the town to make sure that we get this lower rate. But the other side of it is that we are now committing that for the next 20 years with these remaining properties, that even if we find a solution within this time period to generate enough electricity to meet our energy needs, that we are going to pay 85% of our energy needs to Nexamp.
So that effectively that's what the contract states.
Yes.
Over the 20 years, what we would do, and to be honest, we've had projects going for 7 or 8 years and have not run into this situation, fortunately. But what we would do in that circumstance is certainly not, we wouldn't be in the business of trying to, lock the town into a contract that becomes unfair. We try to address these problems to begin with, but B, we would certainly want to work with the town to find a suitable counterparty that we could switch allocations to. So there wouldn't be a penalty to the town. Ultimately, they'd be responsible for purchasing the credits that were allocated to the accounts during that time. We would make every good faith effort to look to the city of Fitchburg, see if they don't need some more credits or work with the university. We're generally in touch with all of those parties, and it's not as if everyone has contracted for sort of, what they ultimately want to. But we would work
what you're
together.
describing is kind of like in my realm of property. It's kind of like, you sign a lease and you're on the hook for the full amount unless you find someone to take over for the lease. My last question for you tonight is, this agreement is a company subsidiary that's out of Delaware. Do you work out of Delaware, or is this a business that I can assume, like most other businesses, are based out of Delaware for tax beneficial purposes?
That would be the latter. So
All right.
it has to do with the way that we structure each project company. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Nexamp Inc.
Thank you.
Just to clarify for me, is this in addition to agreements that we already have for?
In addition to other agreements. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not for all of our electricity, it's
No.
for certain,
The counts that are included are in Exhibit D. And
okay.
But my understanding,
Agreement.
Heather, is that this would then make all of our usage covered by some agreement.
Right.
Yeah. So this is,
It's
Yeah.
filling,
These
grabbing the
essentially.
last.
yes. Yeah.
When is this project going to be online, and when will the town start realizing the benefit?
Sure. So, it's always hard to actually guarantee the timeline of these things being interconnected, but in this case, we're pretty late stage as far as that goes. Our best guess right now is very end of February, beginning of March. The project's about 90% completed. I was trying to dig up a photo today, but I'll circulate it. I'll send it over to Heather afterwards. In this case, it should not be a lengthy interconnection time. We're nearly done with construction, and come springtime, it'll just be some tests with Unitil, and then the project will be turned on. Our general expectation is that once the project is actually the switch is flipped, it takes about a month for those credits to be sort of read by Unitil. They'll physically typically go each month to the project, read how much electricity was generated, and then in that next billing cycle. So it's about a month and a half after the project is actually turned on. So springtime.
So April, May?
That's probably the most likely scenario.
Okay, thank you. And I was reading the document, but it's quite a bit over my head. But my understanding is I am a Nexamp customer in my home.
I thought I
And
recognized your
although
name.
Looking at the bills with Unitil and Nexamp, sometimes I get confused, but I record every kilowatt and every dollar, and it comes out to 15% less per kilowatt per year, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm assuming that this project is going to run just like that.
Yep, that's correct. It'll work just like that. Typically with our larger, as we refer to them, anchor off-takers, we'll have a little bit more sort of individualized communication, and sort of without, upon request, you can certainly call in tomorrow and ask for a history of the bills. But
No, but I know that.
yeah, well, but and we appreciate. I know so the Fitchburg project was one of the first ones that we turned on. So appreciate you sticking with us. But so typically with our sort of monthly communications with our anchor off-takers, our asset management team will provide a little bit more detail broken out, sort of each account that's getting credits, all of that. But to answer your question, it works the same way.
And then when this is done, schools, everything in town will benefit from the 15% less.
Yes.
By May.
So
Great.
do we have an estimated
savings.
Savings or yearly savings?
It was
15%.
around 12 to 13,000.
Yeah, so
All these accounts.
Yep, the number that we came to was about $80,500 of credits that we expect to allocate to town accounts each month. So it's 15% off. Yeah, I think Heather's probably right around 12 or 13,000.
Okay.
For those accounts. On this agreement.
On this new agreement.
This new agreement.
12,000 on the new agreement. So the whole town, do you know how much it is for the
That
whole
I would
town?
have to look at all the other agreements, and it's a point in time, I
Yep.
guess you'd say, because it depends on the value of the credit at that time, that year. So as that changes-
Not all of them are at 15%?
The percentage is, but the value of the credit, so the net meter value, credit value that is allocated to that account. So the value of this credit right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, is around 22 cents.
That's right.
And then we would pay, that full value would show up on our bill, and we'd pay Nexamp, the subsidiary, the 85% of that value.
If the town spent $100,000 on electricity, we're going to spend about 85,000. So, without looking at every little thing, just the blanket overall.
Right.
Great. Appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you all.
So, do we, yeah.
Now, we either can vote on it tonight, or we can wait till the full board's here next week, though, right?
Yes, I asked Charles to come. We agreed that it'd be best if you had questions for him to come in case, this was delayed till next week. Get a jump start on
So would you
answering
prefer
questions.
voting the whole board, or
I mean, are you both unanimous in your support for this?
I am?
Yeah, well, I don't mind waiting either. I mean, it doesn't take effect till spring, so.
Me neither.
I assume it'll pass, but I don't know what Tom and Katie think, so. If it's not a time-sensitive issue, we can wait.
I think you have 3 votes in support of this, so it's going to pass.
Yeah, right, so then
might as well
out
just do
of
it today.
deference to our colleagues, let's vote next week.
He's saying vote now.
I'm saying vote now. I'm saying we have 3 votes to support this, so no matter what, it's going to pass.
So I'd make a motion to approve the purchase and sale agreement as described here.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
And thank you, Heather.
Now, do you want to do your report?
Yes.
All right.
Get back to that.
Heather and I talked on the phone for quite a bit of time about some of these agenda items, and specifically that last one. So I appreciate her support. On
Hope it was hands-free if you were driving.
It was hands-free.
Good night.
I think I have more to sign on those yellow pages as well.
Oh, okay.
All right.
No, it was just Phyllis. She was on.
Oh, I didn't do the tabs. Oh.
All right, so the weekly update on existing vacancies, 1 regular member and 3 alternate vacancies on the Agricultural Commission, 1 vacancy on the Americans with Disabilities Act Commission, 1 vacancy on the Architectural Preservation District Commission, 1 vacancy on the Finance Committee, 1 vacancy on the Open Space Committee, and 1 vacancy on the Planning Board, and 1 regular member and 2 associate vacancies on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And talent bank forms can be received at the Board of Selectmen's office or on the town website. Fiscal 21 budget development update. At the last Selectmen's meeting, I provided the board with possible priorities that would be looked at in the fiscal 21 budget development. After further discussions with the Council on Aging Director, one of the priorities, a certified nutritionist for the Council on Aging, will not be included in the fiscal 21 budget. Also to clarify, I present the 5-year forecast and the capital plan at the end of January and the preliminary budget presentation in mid-February. I spoke with Chairman Alonso about holding the meeting with the public to answer questions after the 5-year forecast and before the preliminary budget presentation.
May I ask you, are we able to ask questions during this? We don't normally.
We do sometimes. Sometimes I do.
What was the reason for not doing the certified nutritionist?
The Council on Aging Director, that's something she sees as a need in the future, just not right now.
Okay.
Has to be developed and a whole more planning to go into that process.
All right.
And you know, the nutritionist at Hannaford is very willing to run educational programs at the senior center and to offer tours of Hannaford, and if people have, say, diabetes-related questions or want a low-sodium diet. I mean, she actually lives in town and has reached out to the town to say that Hannaford can do a lot for us at no charge.
That is excellent. And so they're in communication now then with the...
Yes.
Perfect.
She lives right in the center, practically.
Great.
Yeah, there's a lot more discussion that needs to really come from the Council on Aging Director. That doesn't entirely meet the needs of what she's looking for that position. That's great resource. I agree. But yeah, it's more about the actual program and running the meal program out of the senior center.
Now, you know, I had a question about that. What does the school do for nutrition planning?
I'm not sure.
Because, I mean, if they have someone on board, maybe we could share that person. Because they must have to plan meals for our kids.
And they have federal guidelines they have to follow.
So I would think that maybe we could try working together with the schools more.
We try at every opportunity.
That's right, that's right.
But the federal government considers a tablespoon of pasta sauce to be a vegetable, so...
Now I have a question about the 5-year forecast. Will it include any personnel additions? Forecast? Because I think that's a really big piece of the forecast, you know. Who will we need to hire? When will we need them?
Yep, like last year, that was included, additional personnel.
In the 5-year forecast? Great, thank you.
925 Mass Ave update. We have completed and submitted the Brownfields nomination form to Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. So we'll be awaiting the outcome of that, and that's for Phase 2 assessment costs for 925 Mass Ave. The Recycling IQ grant program, I attended the audit of a load of one of the recycling routes that was part of the Recycling IQ program on Wednesday, November 20th. And the results indicated about a 20% reduction as in our contamination compared to the audit that was done before we began the project. And to answer Selectman Luck's question at last meeting when I reported on this, it was comparable on the same day.
Oh,
so we
good.
had audit results prior to starting the program. On the same day we did the audit at the end.
Great,
So-
because that certainly makes it the most pertinent.
Yes. Yep.
So you watched the audit?
I watched it. Yeah, it was
an eye
an
out.
interesting
They
process.
must have gloves up to here.
So it was done at the Murph in Auburn, and Tessa David, who's the executive director at MassTOS, went as well. And they take a sampling of that day's load. So it's about a 10% sampling of the load. They sort through the whole load and put all the contaminated stuff that doesn't belong in recycling in bins, and then they weigh them against the amount of the load. So they have the weight of the load and the amount of, and that's how they come up with contamination ratios. An interesting part of that, well, when we got there, before they did the actual audit, was the person from Casella was like, "This is the cleanest load I've ever seen," which was great. Someone said that should be a logo on a shirt. But the thing that
Give stars to everybody,
Yes.
Wednesday customer.
I was really happy to see no plastic bags. So that
message
was,
got across.
yes,
for
and
you.
just from looking at it. And the one thing that brought us to where we would have had a 50% reduction was one item. It was one of those cardboard, waxy covered paper that you would put at like a farm stand watermelons in, like the big containers, and doesn't belong to recycling. So the weight of that one item would have changed. But it's a sampling.
So now,
overall, I think
do they
it was
just not
snappy.
pick that up? Or do they still pick up stuff like that?
So it should be eventually like as part of the process, and that's something that's gonna have, like, they'd be tagging those items that they'd be rejected.
Will they be doing that
Yeah.
through the winter?
Casella?
No, yeah, Casella, will they be tagging items, or have they not started that yet?
No, they have not. So that's something, this is gonna be a continual process. And I think it's important for us to work really one-on-one with Casella in what they're telling residents as well, because that was part of the confusion with residents. We're giving messaging that these items aren't recyclable, but then sometimes they get a different response when they call the call center.
Oh.
So we got to get in sync and make sure that we have the same message. So
Yeah, and you kind of think that in the dead of winter, if you leave recycling on the curb, it could be a real mess with plowing and all that, so it probably isn't the best time to start. Not that people should be.
yeah, continue
people should
good
still be there.
recycling,
Yes.
because another thing is I attended a meeting today. It's a Central Mass Recycling meeting, as well as the administrative assistant from the DPW, because she does a lot of that work down at the DPW, and we got an award again this year for good recycling behavior. So
All right.
yeah.
Good for us.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's certainly
Make
a
sure we
well-worthwhile
post that on the website.
Yes.
effort, that's for sure.
Okay. So I had talked previously about doing a recycling public forum. That will be on Wednesday, January 15th at 5:30, with a snow date of January 22nd at 5:30, a place to be determined. And this will include myself, the DEP regional coordinator, Tessa David from Mass Toss, and the recycling supervisor that led the inspectors over the program, and a representative or two from Casella. So basically a panel, and we'll just, the do's and don'ts of recycling and what we've learned. So.
Great. Can't wait. Stuff.
Really?
I don't know why.
Maya risk management grant, we received notification from our insurance carrier, Maya, that we were awarded the grant for a thermographic camera valued at $3,000. This will be utilized by our facilities department to detect heat loss, moisture issues, and other pest problems. Converting streetlights to LED, the meeting with Unitil, Kelly Brown from Green Communities Division, the DPW, Karen Chapman from Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, and myself had to be rescheduled, and that date has yet to be determined. The Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant, the land use director and I worked with our Stormwater Engineering Services consultant, CEI, to submit our planning grant application for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant. And this grant provides support for cities and towns to plan for climate change and implement key adaptation actions for resiliency. The planning grant will allow us to complete vulnerability assessments and develop an action-oriented resiliency plan. And I expect we'll receive notification of the award within the next month or two. Something that's not in my report in the drive, the RFQ for the TC Passios design services was completed. I went to the last committee board meeting, and we reviewed it, and it's now being advertised. It will be in the Central Register tomorrow and in the paper this week. So, and with a deadline of January 8th.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Charles from Nexamp also reminded me to, that the community solar presentation and informational session is tomorrow evening at the middle school collaborative room D132 for anyone interested. All those people that were waitlisted the first go around, they have been contacted and they're eligible to enroll, as well as there's availability for others too. So this is another session on that. And I attended the Capital Planning Committee meeting today, discussed the DPW's capital requests. As I said, the TCP Building Design Committee last Wednesday, the Conservation Commission last Wednesday, and this Thursday I'll be attending the Finance Committee meeting. The Giving Tree with Christmas Tree Angels from the Salvation Army is up in the town hall, so please support the families in need in local communities if you can, and pick up a Christmas angel. And the gifts can be returned back to our office unwrapped by December 19th. And the Cub Scouts coat drive will take place on Saturday, December 14th on the Ritter Lawn from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the town hall is also collecting coats for the same drive in a box downstairs in town hall. So anyone that wishes to drop those off can. And that's all I have.
Should we consider moving? I'll take one of the angels today, because this year I'm not going to be Uncle Scrooge like usual. And
No, it's fun. I did my shopping this week.
yeah, I usually don't buy Christmas gifts, but this year I figure I will, just to show some goodwill towards others for all the many ways I have been blessed in my life. But do you think that we should move that tree downstairs where there's more foot traffic? Because there's quite a bit of angels still left on it.
I don't know if there's enough room downstairs to put it. That's why we did it up here. And it was quite successful last year, having it up, even having it upstairs.
So people are just less giving this year.
I'm going to grab a couple on the way out too, so we'll thin it out.
Time frame, it's a late, the time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is, shorter.
Catherine Herrick was saying that kind of as you look toward the accounting office, she said, there's something on the floor
old cigarette
on the
machine or
right, and she
something?
said, we could move that and put the tree right here. More people would see it, so she had the same idea you have.
Well, thank you for your report, as always, Heather.
All right, are we ready for current business then? Declaration of 17 and 23 West Street as available for disposition.
So I put a short memo to answer questions on this because there's no document per se. This is the part of the process for selling these two parcels, which was approved by town meeting back in May of 2013. So this is part of the procurement process that it's declared available for disposition. And it will then be advertised appropriately in the Central Register, as well as a newspaper of local circulation.
So do we need to make any motion or action item or action tonight, or just you just have to say that it's?
Yes. Yeah.
No action required.
A vote never hurts, I say. To
Okay.
just.
I'll entertain a motion.
What do we make? Oh, just to support that we're doing this?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second your motion.
Trying to figure out what to say. Make a motion that we declare that, that we declare 17 and 23 West Street are available for disposition.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Glad you're getting around to that 2013.
Yes.
All right.
Waiting for the market to go up, right?
So we ready for the annual license renewals?
Yes.
All right, let's start with the 2020 alcohol license renewals. I will just read the licensee name and the DBA. If you have a reason that you don't want to vote for a particular one, just say hold when I say the name. And that way we'll be able to
Just approve them as a group.
approve all, as a group, all that they're on to hold on.
All right.
Okay, all right. The 2020 alcohol renewal License renewals, 449 Corporation, Lakeview Club. AAG LLC, Kindred Spirits. Iron Corporation, Hilltop Farms. American Graffiti Inc., American Graffiti. Carol A. and Henry A. Baker, Baker's Whale and Variety. Central Mass Garden Center, Central Mass Gardens. Elena's Gourmet Grocery Inc., Elena's Gourmet Grocery. Genghis Inc., Jack's Country Variety. Global Montello Group Corp., Honey Farms, number 3829. Yang Yun Lu Inc., Asian Imperial. JK Waterfront Inc., On the Rocks. AAG LLC, Kindred Spirits. KJ Waterfront Inc., Embers Pizzeria. Melendez Magana Inc., Darios. PV Group LLC, Bangkok Hill. Red Pepper Inc., Ixtapa Cantina. Sa Judas LLC, Lunenburg Liquors. S.E. Flan Inc., Sean Patrick's. Settlers Crossing Enterprises Inc., Settlers Pub. Victory Distribution LLC, Hannaford Supermarket and Pharmacy, 8388. I'll entertain, now all of these have their license fees paid and they're ready to roll.
So,
I'll entertain a motion.
move we approve the 2020 alcohol license renewals as just read off.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Now we're going to go to the 2020 auto dealer and limousine license renewals. I'll read the licensee name and DBA. Joe Smalley Auto Inc. Sales, Daewoo North. Michael Chapdelaine Truck Center Inc. Recreational Dimensions Inc., Central Mass Power Sports. Colonial Imports West Inc., North End Mazda. Colonial Imports Inc., North End Subaru. Peter M. Kelly, PMK Motor Sales. Mass Ave Motors Inc., Mass Ave Motors Inc. P&S Truck and Parts Inc., P&S Truck and Parts Inc. Colonial Imports Inc., North End Subaru. Carol A. and Henry A. Baker, Baker's Towing. John V. Gogan, JG Service. Robert C. and Michael R. Lovewell, RC Motors. Carlos Terrero Bismarck, National Motors Corp. Baker Enterprises Company Inc., The Auto Barn. KB Agirman, KB Cars LLC. Michael Bartnowski, KC Sales and Services LLC. P&S Trucks and Parts Inc., P&S Trucks and Parts Inc. Michael Chapdelaine Auto Salvage. Tom Krauss, Lloyd's Limousine Service. First Choice Limousine and Transportation Service Inc., First Choice Limousine.
Make a motion, we approve the 2020 auto dealer and limousine auto renewals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we go to 2020 Common Victualler License Renewal. Licensee name, DBA, 449 Corporation, Lakeview Club. AAG LLC, Kindred Spirits. Iron Corporation, Hilltop Farms. Alan Sousa, Stella's Coffee Shop. American Graffiti Inc., American Graffiti. Carol A. and Henry A. Baker, Baker's Whale and Variety. Conrad's Drive-In Inc., Conrad's Drive-In. Dragonfly Garden Cafe, LLC, Dragonfly Garden Cafe. Genghis Inc., Jack's Country Variety. Global Montello Group Corp., Honey Farms, number 3829. IMA Freeman Inc., Whalum Kitchen. JD Enterprises Inc., Shady Point Beach and Campground. Yang Yun Lu Inc., Asian Imperial. KJ Waterfront Inc., On the Rocks. KJ Waterfront Inc., Embers Pizzeria. Will that change? Probably, right? Because Embers
Yep, but
Pizzeria.
The transfer has to go through fully
Okay.
though.
Lunenburg Gas and Market LLC, Lunenburg Gas and Market. Melendez Magana Inc., Darios. Neshoba Valley Donuts LLC, Dunkin' Donuts. Paul and Linda O'Connell, Lunenburg Exxon. PP Group LLC, Bangkok Hill. Presto Pizza Inc., Presto Pizza. Red Pepper Inc., Ixtapa Cantina. S.E. Flan Inc., Sean Patrick's. Settlers Crossing Enterprises Inc., Settlers Pub. Smokestack Roasters LLC, Smokestack Roasters. Victory Distributors LLC, Hannaford Supermarket and Pharmacy, number 8388. Whalum Gas Service, Whalum Gas. White Farm Limited, Cherry Hill Ice Cream.
Move, well, this says 2019, so it's 2020, I assume.
Yeah, I think it looks like an error just on the header for
Yeah.
the Excel document.
Anyway, move we approve the common victual license renewals as just read for 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. 2020 miscellaneous license renewals, licensee name, DBA. Mark Tessa, Lakeview Driving Range. Carol A. and Henry A. Baker, Baker's Whale and Variety. American Graffiti Inc., American Graffiti. 449 Corporation, Lakeview Club. Whalum Gas Service, Whalum Gas. IMA Freeman Inc., Whalum Kitchen. American Graffiti Inc., American Graffiti. JK Waterfront Inc., On the Rocks. 449 Corporation, Lakeview Club. AAG LLC, Kindred Spirits.
I'm going to make a motion to approve them. I'll just point this out, that these are the miscellaneous licenses, including automatic amusement devices and jukeboxes that are kind of mandated by the state that we regulate, but I personally find it ridiculous that we charge these people this money to have those devices, but I'd make a motion that we approve the 2020 miscellaneous license renewals.
Second.
All voting in favor?
Aye.
Now, the last one is weekday entertainment license renewals. Licensee DBA, American Graffiti Inc., American Graffiti. AAG LLC, Kindred Spirits.
Make a motion to approve the 2020 weekday entertainment licenses.
Second.
All voting in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's it, I think.
Excellent.
All right.
Has anyone been to American Graffiti?
Yes,
What is it? I didn't even know that business existed.
it's a bar.
Just a bar?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've been there, but
Yeah. All right, we have minutes of September 17th, and the minutes of October 1st. Warrants? Thank you. Accounts payable, $550,000, or $550,575.48. Deductions in the amount of $33,298.82. Payroll in the amount of $862,790.62. Accounts payable in the amount of $316,156.51.
You just want to wait to the end to sign.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Are there any action items for tonight?
Nope.
Any committee reports?
yes, I do have that. Just again, for the building committee, Heather mentioned the RFQ went out, so that's good news and put us on track. It's a tight schedule. We're hoping to have something to present to town meeting in the spring as far as, completing our task, but it seems a little tight. We'll see how the respondents respond to our projected timeline. Other than that, we had the capital planning committee meeting earlier tonight, had our presentation from the DPW director. I'll just go through in no particular order some of the requests. One was design for the re-engineering of a culvert on Flat Hill Road. This year would be the design part of the project. Next year would be the proposed construction of the project.
Does it say whereabouts on Flat Hill?
Jack would probably know the address, but it's down by Lake Shirley. In bad shape. Hey, Jack, do you know the culvert? The culvert project for capital planning? Do you know the address or exact location on Flat Hill? Phyllis asked.
I did.
don't have the address, but if you enter Flat Hill by Reservoir Road, it's pretty straight, and you can't help but notice a hairpin turn, sharp left. It's right at that hairpin turn.
Oh, okay. Where the right where the Holmans live, pretty much? Thank you.
Thanks. Also is the replacement, to replace the trackless machine that does the snow plowing of the sidewalks and has the attachment for brush clearing would be a replacement of that, but not intending to get rid of the old one, so we'll have 2 for as long as the old one lasts, but to keep up on the sidewalks that you mentioned earlier.
And with the addition of, I think, 7,000 more feet of sidewalk on Summer Street.
Right. Also makes it a need. Replacement of one of the Ford dump trucks, replacement of the library carpeting.
The whole library?
Yes.
Wow. When they had that water damage, didn't they have to replace some of it? No?
I don't
I
know.
wasn't here, so, and I don't recall hearing about it being replaced.
That was right after it was built, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't too long after. You know how that goes.
Yeah, at any rate, just a side note on that one, there's talk of potentially replacing with carpet tiles to save on doing that, you could replace the carpet around the bookshelves instead of paying for about $40,000 to move back the books, so.
And then you put a carpet on top of the books, I mean,
Yes,
what's
so
the point?
potential savings there.
That's a really good idea. And then you can, if you have a stain or something else, you can just pick one tile up instead of replacing
Yep, so hopefully
the
that,
whole thing.
hopefully a
that
good
sounds
option.
Great idea.
Also, reconfiguring the entryway at the senior center, the roof condition there, where there's always water problems and damage. So reworking that and adding a canopy to protect people going in and out of the building.
Where would the canopy be?
Straight out the
In front
entry.
of the door?
Yeah. Just redoing the senior center kitchen is proposed.
What do they want to redo there?
Just redo the kitchen.
I mean, they just put a new stove in.
The cabinetry, not the equipment, but.
Oh, the just put new cabinets.
Cabinets, countertop, yeah.
They've really got to put a countertop in that's resists melting.
That was, industrial grade was part of the conversation, yes. We're already, a separate project is to redo the town hall ramp. This is an additional project to reconfigure the sidewalk leading to that ramp, so people actually have a accessible route from their car to the building, because right now sidewalk is not compliant. Also is the, redoing the kitchen in the Ritter building was proposed, because that got damaged, had water damage, and it's in pretty tough shape now.
What do they use the kitchen in the Ritter building for?
The staff.
employees.
It's like a kitchenette, employee lunch. Also, potentially adding an ADA ramp to the Ritter building, and a parking area for the cemetery, North Cemetery. So those are all requests. Not sure we'll get to fund them all, but we
Is there
had,
no parking at the cemetery?
it's a specific dedicated area over next to the new, I don't know the exact
So
word.
it'd be
the-
parking lot next to the mausoleum.
Yeah, the mausoleum and all the urn, ash.
There's no,
ashes.
there's no
there's no
parking over
formal parking lot.
Yeah.
There's a
Where do
entry.
people park when they go there?
On the streets that
On the
go
side.
through it.
Yeah. There's no
Yeah,
parking lot.
parking lot.
Most cemeteries don't have a parking lot, yes.
drive-through.
Yeah. At any rate, those are requests from DPW, among others for, years out, but those are for this year's requests. We have our meeting next week to discuss prioritization of all the requests from all the departments. So if anyone's interested, 5 o'clock here.
5 o'clock next
Um,
Tuesday?
Yes, going to request, hopefully see if PAC can televise it, or at least
That's a
record
good
it.
idea.
But at any rate, next week. That's all I have.
Okay. Old business? Don't have any old business? Oh, I just wanted to
There-
mention that the task force meeting in December has been canceled, and we will meet on the third Thursday in January. I'm not sure what date that is. Upcoming meeting schedule, oh, did you have any old business?
No, none.
Upcoming meeting, event schedule, our next meeting is December 17th. The last meeting of 2019 is next Tuesday. Is there any public comment from the public?
Board members. Hi. I don't know if you've heard the quote, "What you allow, you encourage."
Yes.
I think most have, or some sense of it. What you allow, you encourage. If anybody knows anything about me, I'm loyal to my staff, and I would do anything to support my staff. We just went through 54 straight hours of snow removal. We do this with no expectation of praise. This is what we signed up for. We do get a salary for it, and although there's no one else in the municipality that works those kind of hours, this is what we do. I'd like to address a comment that was made earlier that we shouldn't build any more sidewalks. Actually, our sidewalks program is going to explode in the next few years. But the comment was made that we shouldn't build any more sidewalks if we can't take care of the ones that we already have. I find that an insult. I find that incorrect. It's an insult to my staff. Every sidewalk in town was plowed at the conclusion of the storm. It did take some time. We've picked up 7,000 extra linear feet because of the Summer Street project. And we were still doing sidewalks towards the end of the week. In fact, we had people coming in nights and on the weekend to do it. So I take offense to the comment of the interim chairman that she says it couldn't get down a particular sidewalk. This sidewalk was poorly designed and doesn't accommodate the snow blower. And to encapsulate and put an umbrella over the work that was done, the good work that was done on the sidewalks for this 40-foot stretch, I believe is unfair and incorrect.
Thanks, Jack, for the work you and your team do always, and I do appreciate all the hard work in keeping the sidewalks as clean as possible. And
Jack, I drive from here to Boston area most days, and we got hit with 25.1 inches of snow, and the Boston area was hit with about 6 to 7. And there is no question that Lunenburg has the best roads around. I mean, I may have some complaints about, people not being buried in the middle of the winter time. And we may not see eye to eye on everything, but I don't think there's a question that the crew that you lead, manage, and supervise do an unparalleled job when it comes to snow removal. There's no doubt.
It's much appreciated, and as I said, with no expectation of praise. If you could see the looks on these people's faces after 50 hours, that's why it's important for you folks, the highest level of elected officials and people to whom we should look up to you. It pains me that somebody would insult the work, so thank you very much.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I have a public comment
Oh,
from the
sorry
board.
about that.
So I know that we're signing a whole bunch of stuff up here, so I'll pause. This is really for the people at home who've toughed it out and are still listening at 9:15 p.m. So, I've talked to a couple of people around town about how we can, this board has to discuss more about the buildings in town and what we're going to do about it. I think that the solar fields that are the old dump should be converted to being a solar field to generate some more income for our town. The chair mentioned in a previous meeting that he challenged me to figure out where we should be cutting from, given the staffing improvements that I have supported. And I know Mr. Chair is not here tonight, Mr. Alonso's not here tonight, but I fully know that he will review this meeting, but also I'm speaking to the people at home, that there are times in which, and I'm not sure which camera to look at, so I'll look at this one. There are times in which we should not look to our government to do those things that we ourselves ought to be doing. For example, anything that this town does when it comes to buildings will cost more than what it would cost on a private level. We need a nonprofit in town that works alongside government, that we're able to convey, if necessary, buildings to, so that it can rely on the goodwill and support of those members of our town. We need a nonprofit that will be able to take point in creating an opportunity on our old dump to create these solar fields. These are things that government should not get too heavily involved in business. But we have to come together to find these answers. We talked tonight about, we see these solar fields going up, and there are millions of dollars that we could be getting into our coffers over the years if we as a community come together, not as a government, but as people outside of government, recognizing the limitations of what the town cannot do. We ourselves need to do it. So I certainly want to make myself available to anyone who is interested in talking with me further about this idea. My personal phone number is 508-662-1914. Please call me. I think that we have an opportunity here to make our lives better, to stabilize some taxes, but it's outside the realm of what we can do as a government. So, thank you.
I appreciate those comments, Michael, and I think that for a long time I've thought that the solutions with these buildings in the center of town is going to have to come from, public interest and someone with a community-minded way of reusing these buildings, because there's no way the town can fulfill occupying and running all of them in the future. I mean, somebody's going to have to take it over. It'd be great to see someone come forward with a nonprofit, community-based group that could do that and have us feel good about doing that. So, again, it's going to come from the community to, if we really want to maintain all these properties and historic nature, somebody's going to have to come forward and help.
I agree. Any more other comment?
No.
I'll
Thank you.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.